I'll be honest with you, I've been there. In my early 20s, I made mistakes that cost me way more than I'd like to admit, and fixing them took years. That's exactly why in this video, I'm breaking down the top 7 money traps to avoid in your 20s before it's too late. By the end, you'll know the exact financial pitfalls to steer clear of so you can save more, invest smarter, and set yourself up for long-term success. Most people in their 20s fall into the money trap of overspending on lifestyle upgrades too early, and this problem often begins the moment they start earning a steady paycheck. After years of being financially dependent on parents, scholarships, or part-time jobs, the sudden freedom of having income creates a strong urge to reward yourself. The first signs of this trap are often subtle. Buying a new phone right when it comes out, upgrading to a nicer apartment that eats half of your income, or going out to expensive dinners several nights a week. The problem is not that any of these purchases are inherently wrong. It's that the cumulative effect of these decisions creates a lifestyle that costs far more than you can comfortably afford. And once you lock yourself into higher expenses, it's incredibly hard to scale back. Psychologically, it feels like you're moving forward in life by upgrading your lifestyle, but financially, you're building a fragile foundation. Instead of money working for you, it disappears as quickly as it comes in, leaving you with nothing left over to save or invest. This is a common reason why so many young adults feel broke even when they're earning more than they ever have before. The solution is to consciously delay lifestyle inflation and focus on building a financial cushion before indulging in major upgrades. This doesn't mean you have to live like a monk or deprive yourself of every comfort, but it does mean adopting the mindset of earn first, reward later. A simple strategy is to set percentages for your money. Before you even touch your paycheck, dedicate a portion to savings and investments, another portion to fixed expenses, and only then allow yourself to enjoy the rest guilt-free. By paying yourself first, you avoid the trap of spending everything and hoping there's something left over. Another powerful approach is to embrace the idea of gradual upgrades. Instead of jumping from a 500 apartment to a 1,500 apartment as soon as you get a raise, maybe upgrade to an 801 and allocate the difference towards savings or investments. This way, you still enjoy progress and comfort, but you also protect your long-term financial stability. The key is intentionality, making sure your lifestyle reflects your priorities, not your impulses. An example of this can be seen in 2 recent college graduates who start their careers at the same salary. The first graduate, excited by their new income, immediately moves into a trendy downtown apartment, buys a new car on payments, and starts traveling frequently on credit. For the first year or two, life feels exciting, but then the stress begins. Credit card balances grow, rent eats half their income, and saving for emergencies or investing in opportunities becomes impossible. Every raise they get is quickly swallowed by new expenses. By their late 20s, they're stuck in the same cycle, living paycheck to paycheck, despite earning a decent salary. The second graduate takes a different approach. Instead of rushing to upgrade, they continue living with a roommate for a couple of years, keep their reliable used car, and dedicate 20% of their income towards savings and investments. They still enjoy nights out and small rewards, but they don't let those expenses dominate their budget. Within 3 years, they've built an emergency fund, invested consistently in index funds, and even have cash ready for new opportunities. By the time both individuals reach their late 20s, the contrast is enormous. One is struggling with debt and financial stress, while the other has a growing net worth and the freedom to make choices without panic. This example illustrates how overspending on lifestyle upgrades early can quietly sabotage your financial future, while a disciplined and intentional approach can set you up for long-term wealth and stability. One of the most dangerous money traps that people in their 20s fall into is high-interest debt, especially from credit cards. At first, it seems harmless. You get approved for your first card, maybe with a $1,000 or $2,000 limit, and you think of it as free money. You buy a few things here and there, maybe close nights out or gadgets, with the intention of paying it back later. But what starts as a small balance quickly becomes overwhelming once you start making only the minimum payments. The problem is that credit cards are designed to trap you. The interest rates are often 20% or higher, which means if you carry a balance of even a few $100s, you'll end up paying far more than what you originally spent. Many young adults underestimate just how fast interest compounds against them, and once they fall into the cycle of debt, it becomes extremely hard to escape. Instead of your income working for you, a significant portion of it goes towards servicing debt, which steals your ability to save, invest, or enjoy financial freedom. The emotional weight of knowing you owe money can also create stress, anxiety, and even strain relationships, making this one of the most toxic financial traps of early adulthood. The solution is to understand the true cost of debt and adopt strategies to avoid or eliminate it as early as possible. First, the mindset shift. Credit cards should not be treated as an extension of your income, but as a tool for convenience and rewards only if you can pay off the balance in full every single month. Using a credit card responsibly can help you build credit history and earn perks, but carrying a balance is where the trap begins. If you're already in debt, the fastest way to escape is by attacking it aggressively with methods like the avalanche or snowball strategy. The avalanche method focuses on paying off the debt with the highest interest rate first while making minimum payments on the rest, which saves you the most money long term. The snowball method, on the other hand, focuses on paying off the smallest debt first to build momentum and motivation. Both strategies work, but the key is consistency and cutting back on unnecessary expenses until the debt is gone. Another part of the solution is building an emergency fund. Many people swipe their credit card during unexpected expenses because they don't have savings, but if you have even a small buffer set aside, you can avoid falling back into debt. Ultimately, the best solution is prevention. Only use credit when you can pay it off immediately, and avoid financing depreciating items that won't bring you long-term value. An example of this can be seen in a young professional named Sarah. At 23, she received her first credit card with a $2,500 limit. At first, she used it sparingly, but soon, she started charging dinners with friends, a few weekend trips, and some new clothes. Within 6 months, she had maxed out the card. Since she could only afford the minimum payment of $70,000 a month, she figured she would catch up eventually. But the high interest rate of 24% kept adding up, and her balance barely went down. By the time she was 25, she had opened 2 more credit cards to cover expenses, and her total debt had grown to over $8,000. The stress was overwhelming, and every paycheck felt like it vanished as soon as it hit her account. Compare this with her friend Daniel, who also got a credit card around the same time. Daniel made a rule to never spend more than what he had in his checking account and set his card to auto pay in full each month. While Sarah was struggling with thousands in interest payments, Daniel was earning cashback rewards, maintaining an excellent credit score, and putting extra money toward investments. The difference between their financial paths was not the amount they earned, but the way they handled high-interest debt. This shows how quickly debt can spiral out of control in your 20s, but also how discipline and awareness can protect you from years of financial stress and wasted money. A common money trap in your 20s is neglecting savings and not building an emergency fund, and this problem often doesn't feel urgent until it's too late. Most young adults think of savings as something they'll get to later, once they're earning more or once their expenses feel manageable. The reality is that unexpected expenses don't wait for the right timing. Your car might break down, a medical bill might appear out of nowhere, or you might suddenly lose your job. Without savings, these situations turn into financial crises, and many people are forced to rely on credit cards or loans, which only digs them into deeper debt. The problem is not just the lack of savings itself, but the vulnerability it creates. Living paycheck to paycheck leaves you one emergency away from financial instability, and the stress of knowing you don't have a safety net can affect your decisions, your health, and even your opportunities. Instead of taking risks that might benefit your future, you end up playing it safe or making desperate choices simply to get by. The solution is to make savings non-negotiable and treat it as a fixed expense rather than something optional. Even if your income is limited, saving something, no matter how small, creates a habit and builds momentum. The first priority should be building an emergency fund of at least 3 to 6 months of essential living expenses. This doesn't have to happen overnight. It can start with setting a small percentage of each paycheck into a separate savings account that you don't touch. Automating this process makes it much easier because you never see the money sitting in your checking account waiting to be spent. Once you have a starter emergency fund, the next step is to create different buckets of savings for short-term goals like travel or big purchases, so you're not constantly dipping into your emergency account for non-essentials. Beyond that, the mindset shift is equally important. Saving should be seen as buying freedom and peace of mind, not as depriving yourself. Each dollar saved is like giving your future self the ability to make choices without being trapped by financial stress. By developing the discipline of saving early, you also prepare yourself for bigger financial moves later, like investing, buying a home, or starting a business. An example of this can be seen in 2 coworkers, Alex and Maya, both 24 and working at their first full-time jobs. Alex figured that since he was just starting out, there was no point in saving right away. His paycheck was already stretched between rent, student loans, and social activities, so he told himself he'd save when he earned more. A year later, his car broke down unexpectedly, and the father's $200 repair bill had to go on his credit card. That balance, combined with interest, lingered for months and created constant stress. Then, just a few months later, his company announced layoffs, and Alex found himself unemployed with no savings to fall back on. He had to move back home with his parents, feeling like he was starting over. Maya, on the other hand, took a different approach. Even though her paycheck wasn't large, she set up an automatic transfer of $100 each month into a savings account she didn't touch. She also put any small bonuses or tax refunds straight into her emergency fund. Within a year, she had saved nearly $20,000. When her laptop suddenly stopped working, she was able to replace it with cash without going into debt. Later, when her company faced the same round of layoffs, Maya wasn't chosen, but even if she had been, she would have had enough saved to cover her rent and expenses for several months while finding a new job. The difference between Alex and Mia wasn't their salary, but their mindset toward savings. One saw it as something to deal with later and paid the price, while the other prioritized it early and built security and freedom into her financial life. Delaying investing is another major money trap that many people in their 20s fall into, and the root of the problem is often underestimating the power of time and compounding. When you're young, retirement feels decades away. and it's easy to believe you'll start investing later when you're earning more. The problem is that every year you delay is a year you lose of compound growth, and compound growth is what turns small, consistent contributions into massive long-term wealth. For example, if you wait until your 30s to start investing, you miss out on 10 crucial years where your money could have been working for you. That gap can mean hundreds of thousands of dollars less by the time you reach retirement. The psychological trap here is that investing feels intimidating or like something only wealthy people should do. So many young adults avoid it altogether. Instead, they focus only on saving in a bank account, which barely keeps up with inflation, leaving their money stagnant while costs of living rise. The real danger isn't just lost money, it's lost time, and time is the one resource you can never get back. The solution is to start investing as early as possible, even if the amount seems small. You don't need thousands of dollars to begin. What matters most is consistency and the habit of contributing regularly. For beginners, simple investment vehicles like index funds or exchange-traded funds, ETFs, are excellent choices because they're diversified, relatively low risk, and don't require you to be an expert stock picker. Another important tool for those with access is a retirement account like a 401k or IRA, which often comes with tax advantages and sometimes even employer matching contributions. Taking advantage of these accounts early on can supercharge your long-term growth. The key is to shift your mindset from "I'll start later" to "I need to start now," even if it's small. Automating contributions directly from your paycheck into an investment account makes this process almost effortless. Over time, as your income grows, you can increase the amount, but the crucial part is to get started. Think of investing as planting a tree. The best time was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. An example of this can be seen when comparing two friends, Emma and Josh. At 22, Emma began investing just $200 a month into a low-cost index fund, averaging a 7% annual return. She stayed consistent, never trying to time the market, and allowed her money to grow quietly in the background. By the time she turned 32, she had invested $24,000 of her own money, but thanks to compounding, her account had grown to nearly $35,000. Josh, on the other hand, felt like investing wasn't urgent. He told himself he'd start once he was more financially stable. At 32, he finally began investing the same $200 per month, and while he was doing the right thing now, he had already lost 10 years of growth. If both continued investing the same amount until age 60, Emma would end up with nearly twice as much as Josh, even though she contributed the same monthly amount simply because she started earlier. This example highlights the silent cost of delaying investing. It doesn't feel painful in the moment, but over decades, it creates a massive wealth gap. The earlier you begin, the less money you need to contribute to reach the same financial goals, while delaying forces you to contribute far more to catch up. This is why starting now, no matter how small, is the single best financial move you can make in your 20s. Falling for quick money schemes is one of the most damaging traps people in their 20s often face, and it usually comes from the desire to accelerate wealth before building a solid financial foundation. The problem begins when young adults see others flaunting success online, promising overnight reaches through day trading, crypto pumps, MLMs, or other high-risk ventures that sound too good to be true. Social media amplifies this problem by showing only the highlights, people showing off cars, vacations, or screenshots of massive profits, while hiding the countless failures and losses behind the scenes. The danger is that these schemes exploit impatience and inexperience. Instead of building wealth slowly and securely, many end up losing thousands of dollars, sometimes borrowed, chasing unrealistic results. The emotional toll is also significant. Shame, regret, and discouragement often follow failed attempts, which can even push people away from investing altogether, fearing that all financial growth is just gambling. The solution is to reframe your approach to building wealth and understand that sustainable growth is always long-term. There is no legitimate way to get rich overnight without massive risk, and risk without strategy is closer to gambling than investing. The first step is education. Learn the fundamentals of personal finance, such as budgeting, saving, and diversified investing. Once you grasp how money truly grows over time, it becomes much harder to be lured into promises of easy wealth. Another important tact is to set clear financial goals and stick to them. When you know your money is meant for a specific purpose, like an emergency fund, long-term investments, or retirement, it becomes harder to gamble it away on quick schemes. Avoid high-pressure environments where you're told you'll miss out if you don't act immediately. Real opportunities don't disappear overnight, and anything that relies on urgency or secrecy is usually a red flag. Instead, commit to proven strategies, consistent contributions to retirement accounts, investing in index funds, building skills that increase your income, or even starting a side business that has genuine value. These may not give you instant gratification, but they provide steady, reliable progress that compounds over time. An example of this trap can be seen in a young graduate named Kevin. At 24, he was eager to grow his money fast and was drawn into a flashy crypto group on social media. Promises of doubling or tripling his money in weeks convinced him to invest $5,000, nearly all of his savings, into a coin he knew very little about. For a short time, his account balance skyrocketed, and he felt like he had cracked the code to wealth. But within months, the hype died down, The value of the coin collapsed, and Kevin lost almost everything. The frustration left him disillusioned with investing altogether, and he avoided the stock market for years afterward, costing him even more in missed opportunities. On the other hand, his friend Lisa took a different path. Around the same age, she also wanted to grow her money, but instead of chasing trends, she focused on building her financial foundation. She set up automatic contributions into an S&P 500 index fund, started a small side hustle selling digital products, and reinvested her profits back into her business. Her progress was slower in the beginning, but within a few years, she not only had a healthy investment portfolio, but also a profitable side income stream. While Kevin was stuck regretting a failed gamble, Lisa was enjoying both stability and growth, built on decisions that had real long-term value. This contrast shows how quick money schemes can derail financial growth before it even begins, while patience, discipline, and real strategies create the kind of wealth that actually lasts. Ignoring financial education is another major money trap that many people in their 20s fall into, and it often happens because money management is rarely taught in school. Most young adults graduate knowing how to solve advanced math problems or analyze literature, but they have no idea how credit scores work, how to file taxes, or how to build wealth over time. The problem is that when you step into the real world without financial knowledge, you're essentially playing a game where everyone else knows the rules except you. Banks, credit card companies, and even advertisers benefit from your lack of understanding because it makes it easier for them to profit off your mistakes. Without financial education, it's easy to overspend, rack up debt, delay investing, and live paycheck to paycheck without realizing how damaging these habits are in the long run. The danger is not just about losing money. It's about losing years of opportunity and freedom simply because you didn't know any better. In your 20s, when habits are forming in time is your greatest asset, ignorance can be one of the most expensive mistakes of all. The solution is to take responsibility for your own financial education, even if no one taught you growing up. Today, knowledge is more accessible than ever. You can learn the basics of personal finance through books, podcasts, online courses, YouTube channels, and even free resources provided by financial institutions. Start with core topics like budgeting, saving, credit management, investing, and taxes. Once you understand these fundamentals, you'll feel more confident making decisions and less likely to fall for traps or manipulative marketing. The key is to treat financial education as an ongoing process, not a one-time crash course. The world of money is constantly changing, and staying updated on best practices allows you to adapt as your income grows and your financial goals evolve. Another important step is surrounding yourself with the right influences. If your peers or social media feed are filled with people who normalize overspending or chasing quick money, it's easy to absorb those habits. Instead, follow people in communities who promote financial literacy, long-term investing, and smart money habits. Over time, this positive reinforcement shapes your mindset, and you begin making better choices without even realizing it. Financial education empowers you to control your money rather than letting money control you. And it's the foundation for every other financial decision you'll make. An example of this can be seen in two roommates, Jake and Priya, both 25 years old. Jake avoided learning about money because he thought it was boring and complicated. He spent freely, paid bills as they came, and assumed that as long as he wasn't broke, he was fine. When he got his first credit card, he didn't understand how interest worked, and within a year, he had accumulated $3,000 in debt. He also ignored his company's retirement plan because he didn't know how to enroll or what it meant to get an employer match. By the time he hit 30, he was still living paycheck to paycheck, burdened by debt, and missing out on thousands of dollars in free retirement contributions. Priya, on the other hand, made financial education a priority. She started by reading a few beginner-friendly personal finance books and listening to money podcasts on her commute. She set up a simple budget, tracked her spending, and built an emergency fund. When she got her job, she researched her retirement plan and contributed enough to get the full employer match, essentially doubling her investment without extra effort. Over time, she grew more confident and even began investing in index funds outside of her retirement account. By the same age that Jake was drowning in debt, Priya had built a strong financial foundation with savings, investments, and zero debt. The difference wasn't their income or background. It was that Priya chose to educate herself about money while Jake ignored it. This example shows how powerful financial knowledge can be in shaping your future and why ignoring it in your 20s is one of the costliest mistakes you can make. So let's do a quick recap. In your 20s, money traps are everywhere, but the biggest ones to avoid are overspending on lifestyle upgrades, falling into high interest debt, neglecting your savings and emergency fund, delaying investing and missing out on compounding, chasing quick money schemes that almost always backfire, and ignoring financial education that leaves you unprepared for the real world. Each of these mistakes might seem small in the moment, but together they can set you back years financially. The flip side is that by being intentional, living below your means, paying off debt quickly, saving consistently, investing early, avoiding shortcuts, and taking time to learn about money, you set yourself up for freedom, security, and opportunities that most people won't have. Your 20s are the foundation, and the decisions you make now will either build wealth or build regret. If you found this helpful, make sure to subscribe, drop a like, and leave a comment about which trap you've seen the most around you.